Nehemiah served as a cupbearer in the opulent palace of Susa. His life was one of comfort and privilege, far removed from hardship. News arrived, shattering his tranquility. Jerusalem lay in ruins. The city's walls were broken down, its gates burned to ashes. Its inhabitants were vulnerable, their spirits crushed and broken. The news pierced Nehemiah's heart like a poisoned arrow. A profound sense of grief and responsibility washed over him. He didn't succumb to despair. He refused to be paralyzed by sorrow. Instead, he transformed his grief into a burning mission. He felt a divine calling to restore Jerusalem's glory. Nehemiah understood that true leadership springs from burden, a deep burden for the broken, the lost, and the forgotten. He recognized God often uses a broken heart as a catalyst for building something new and meaningful. Something that reflects His glory and restores His people. Nehemiah saw the ruined walls not as a sign of defeat, but as an invitation, a challenge to rise above the ashes. An invitation to reconstruct his life and the lives of others. With God as the ultimate architect, the master builder. He began to pray, pouring out his heart to the Lord. He confessed the sins of his people, acknowledging their failures. He pleaded for God's mercy and favor, seeking His guidance. He fasted, humbling himself before the Almighty. He sought God's wisdom and strength for the task ahead. Nehemiah knew he couldn't accomplish this alone. He needed God's supernatural intervention and provision. He prayed for favor with King Artaxerxes, his master. He knew he would need the king's permission and resources. He asked for letters of passage and timber for the rebuilding. He trusted that God would soften the king's heart. After days of prayer and fasting, Nehemiah approached the king. The king noticed his sadness and inquired about its cause. Nehemiah, filled with fear and reverence, explained his burden. He shared the news of Jerusalem's desolation with the king. He requested permission to return and rebuild the city. The king, moved by Nehemiah's passion, granted his request. He provided letters of passage and resources for the journey. God had answered Nehemiah's prayer in a miraculous way. Nehemiah prepared to leave Susa, his heart filled with hope. He gathered a group of skilled workers and faithful companions. They embarked on the long and arduous journey to Jerusalem. Nehemiah knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges. But he was determined to fulfill God's purpose for his life. He arrived in Jerusalem and surveyed the ruined walls by night. He kept his plans secret, revealing them only to a few trusted leaders. He assessed the damage and strategized the rebuilding process. He knew he needed to inspire the people and unite them. He called a meeting of the priests, nobles, and officials. He shared his vision for rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. He reminded them of God's promises and His faithfulness. He challenged them to rise up and rebuild together. The people responded with enthusiasm and determination. They declared, "Let us rise up and build." Their hands were strengthened for the good work. Nehemiah's burden had become their burden. Their shared vision ignited a flame of hope in Jerusalem. The rebuilding process was about to begin. Nehemiah prepared to lead the charge. He trusted in God's power and guidance. The restoration of Jerusalem was now within reach. Nehemiah felt the weight of Jerusalem's ruins, a constant reminder of his mission. He rallied the people, their faces etched with determination and weariness. Work began, stones being hauled, mortar mixed, hope slowly rising. But whispers of doubt slithered through the city, carried by enemies. Even a fox could knock down what you're building. Sanballat sneered. Tobiah chuckled, his voice dripping with mockery and disdain. Nehemiah heard them, his jaw tightening with resolve, not fear. He addressed the builders, his voice strong and unwavering. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome. Fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, your homes. His words ignited a spark of courage in their hearts. Nehemiah organized the work, dividing the people into shifts. Half would build, the other half would stand guard, armed and ready. Each builder wore his sword at his side, a constant reminder of danger. The sound of the trumpet was the signal for attack, a call to arms. Nehemiah stayed close, ready to lead and defend at a moment's notice. The work continued, a slow, arduous process under constant threat. One hand held a trowel, carefully laying stones, building the wall. The other hand gripped a sword, ready to defend against attack. The builders' faces were grim, their eyes scanning the horizon. They knew their enemies were watching, waiting for an opportunity. Sanballat and Tobiah plotted, their hatred growing with each stone laid. They sent messengers, trying to lure Nehemiah into a trap. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But Nehemiah saw through their deception, refusing to leave his post. I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease, while I leave it and go down to you? They persisted, sending the same message 4 times. But Nehemiah refused. Sanballat then sent an open letter, filled with false accusations. He claimed Nehemiah was planning to rebel and become king. He threatened to report him to the Persian king, hoping to intimidate him. Nehemiah remained calm, denying the accusations and trusting in God. No such things as you say are being done, but you invent them. He prayed for strength and wisdom, seeking God's guidance. The enemies tried other tactics, hiring prophets to discourage Nehemiah. They spread rumors, hoping to demoralize the builders and halt the work. But Nehemiah remained steadfast, his faith unshaken by their schemes. He encouraged the people, reminding them of God's power and protection. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome. The wall began to rise, slowly but surely, a testament to their resilience. The enemies were enraged, their plans thwarted at every turn. They conspired to attack Jerusalem by surprise, hoping to scatter the builders. But God revealed their plans to Nehemiah, protecting his people. Nehemiah strengthened the defenses, placing guards at vulnerable points. He armed the people with spears, swords, and bows, preparing for battle. He reminded them that God would fight for them, giving them courage. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome. The enemies hesitated, their plans disrupted by Nehemiah's vigilance. They realized they could not defeat the people as long as they trusted in God. The work continued, the builders more determined than ever before. They knew their enemies were watching, but they refused to be intimidated. The wall rose higher, a symbol of hope and defiance. Nehemiah's leadership inspired them, his faith giving them strength. He taught them to build with one hand and fight with the other. He showed them that true progress requires both vision and courage. The people worked together, united in their purpose and their faith. They knew that God was with them, guiding and protecting them. Despite the opposition, the wall continued to rise, stone by stone. Nehemiah's burden for Jerusalem was becoming a reality. The city would soon be secure, its people safe and protected.